The sky over Earth turned red, not from sunset, but from fire. At exactly 4 p.m. Universal Time Coordinated, every major city on the planet was struck. Orbital plasma lances pierced the clouds and carved the ground with surgical cruelty. Beijing vaporized in 5 seconds. London's parliament crumbled as a beam sliced through the Thames. Across the globe, electromagnetic pulses knocked out satellites, communication networks, and power grids. They called it Operation Heavenfall. 5 dominant alien species, the Vakeen, Zilari, Thrusk, Viluan, and the insectoid Drek, had come together in secret council to eliminate the rising human threat. Earth's rapid development in AI, deep space propulsion, and fusion weaponry was seen as a ticking bomb in galactic balance. So they decided to strike first. Hit hard, break the will to resist before it ever took root. From orbit, their commanders observed the chaos with satisfaction. Buildings crumbled. People screamed. Military installations went dark. But something was wrong. There were no planetary surrender codes. No pleas from world leaders. No ambassadors groveling for mercy. Earth didn't even try to respond through the usual diplomatic channels. The aliens expected submission. They got silence. Not the silence of death, but the silence of preparation. 3 miles beneath Colorado, in NORAD's buried command bunker, General Louise Tran watched her screen light up with data, scrambled, fragmented, but functional. The decentralized military network held. Status, she barked. Redundant AI cores still operational. Missile command buried and untouched. Cyber warfare teams are rerouting through Starlink backups. Survivor estimate. Low, but not zero. Global civilian clusters regrouping. Armed resistance cells already forming in Australia, Alaska, northern India. Tran's jaw tightened. They hadn't been wiped out. They'd been challenged. She turned to the central comms officer. Patches signal. Open band. Galactic standard. I want every species in that orbit to hear me. On board the Viluan dreadnought Sacred Fire, Admiral Gorak clicked his mandibles in irritation. Earth's response should have arrived by now. His kind had broken entire civilizations with less firepower than this. Then the human signal came through. It wasn't static. It wasn't a surrender. It was a video feed, grainy, low resolution, clearly patched together in haste. A human woman in a battered military uniform stared directly into the camera, blood staining her left sleeve. "This is General Tran of the Terran Joint Defense Accord," she said, voice cold and calm. "You just committed planetary genocide." Gorak straightened, intrigued. Tran leaned forward. "You thought you were bringing us hell." Her voice dropped to a whisper, one that carried like a blade. "Cute. Now it's our turn." The signal cut. Across the dying cities of Earth, survivors watched makeshift broadcasts flicker to life. Phones pinged. Emergency frequencies lit up. A single phrase appeared on every screen, etched in black and red. They unleashed hell. Time to get truly nasty. It wasn't official. It wasn't sanctioned. But it was human. In the burned remains of Sao Paulo, a boy no older than 12 picked up a dead soldier's rifle. In the collapsed subway tunnels of Tokyo, med students turned surgical gear into improvised traps. Across military bunkers and refugee zones, ancient protocols reawakened. Black projects, off-grid weapons caches, unshackled war AIS. Humanity didn't collapse. It adapted. By midnight, the first alien casualty reports began to filter in. A Thrusk landing party in Canada was eviscerated, ambushed by drones jury-rigged from farming equipment and hunting rifles. A Drek war priest was decapitated by a homemade guillotine in Paris. A Viluan cruiser received a data virus that overloaded its navigational AI and crashed it into the Atlantic. They had tried to shock Earth into submission. Instead, they had awakened the worst version of humanity, the side born from centuries of war, colonization, rebellion, and survival. Not peaceful diplomats, not politicians, predators. In the ruins of what was once New Delhi, a survivor wrote on a broken wall with blood and ash, "Welcome to Earth. Now we fight dirty." The Vakeen commander landed with the arrogance of a conqueror. 6 armored dropships slammed into the outskirts of Berlin, their stabilizers churning the scorched ground into black mist. Dozens of soldiers in exoplated armor fanned out with scanning drones, expecting broken resistance, if any at all. They didn't realize they'd landed in a kill zone. The first explosion tore through the lead transport, reducing the squad to a spray of blue gore and twisted metal. Then came the monofilament wires, strung between ruins, invisible until limbs began falling off. From the shadows of the rubble, humans emerged. They weren't soldiers by rank, but killers by necessity. Captain Juno Vega moved like a ghost through the alleyways of broken Berlin, her blood-streaked armor caked in ash and soot. She gave hand signals to her team. 5 operatives, each scarred, each silent. "Target is Vakeen Command Pod," she whispered into her throat. "MIC priority. Sever their eyes and ears. No survivors." Above them, a Vakeen drone swept low. Vega didn't flinch. She waited until its lens passed, then tossed an old signal jammer wrapped in aluminum foil. Primitive, but effective. The drone blinked, spun mid-air, then dropped like a stone. "Strike window open," she said. The squad surged forward. All over Earth, operations like Vega's were happening in real time. They were called Hellpacks, decentralized, adaptive strike units combining special forces, militia fighters, and combat AIS. They didn't follow a chain of command. They followed a single doctrine. No clean war, no fair fight, only results. Cities became killing fields. Underground tunnels and shattered highways turned into ambush corridors. Human engineers hijacked alien supply drones and reprogrammed them to deliver explosives instead of food. The aliens had expected compliance. They got a hunting party. In Nairobi, a group of teenage hackers broke into a direct communication relay. Using only salvaged smartphones and solar chargers, they intercepted encrypted orders, fed back false coordinates, and caused 2 direct war cruisers to collide mid-air. In Moscow, an elderly physicist activated a dormant Cold War railgun prototype hidden beneath the Kremlin. It fired once, shattering a Veluan escort frigate and leveling 5 blocks in the process. Collateral damage? Irrelevant. The war had changed. On board the Direct Command barge, General Zek of the Brood screamed in frustration. "They fight with chaos," he hissed. "They should be broken. They have no unity, no hierarchy." His aide, a nervous Veluan diplomat, dared to respond. "They have no unity," he admitted, "but they have a shade instinct, a collective rage." Zek turned, spittle dripping from his mandibles. "And that makes them dangerous." The aide nodded. "No, that makes them human." Meanwhile, inside a forgotten black site buried beneath the Rockies, Dr. Omar Bashir stared at the twitching remains of an alien recon drone. It had taken him 16 hours, 6 energy drinks, and 2 med injections to bypass its neural net. He smiled grimly. Time to teach their toys new tricks. Within a day, Bashir had recoded the drone's flight subroutine, embedded an oath-based targeting overlay, and rigged it with a biological payload, one engineered from the same viruses the Coalition had unleashed on Earth. Now repurposed, now returned, dozens of reprogrammed drones took to the sky, silently infiltrating enemy formations and spreading a sickness the aliens had never prepared to endure. They called it poetic justice. Humans called it Tuesday. By the end of the second week, the Galactic Coalition was in shambles. 3 Vakeen cruisers were missing. A Throsk ambassador ship had been lured into a volcano using false gravity signals. Drek hatcheries on the moon were destroyed by tactical rail charges smuggled in food shipments. The Coalition fleet held orbit still, but their command lines were frayed. Morale was crumbling. Troops were deserting. They had come to Earth to end a threat. Instead, they had given birth to one. In a charred subway station in Boston, a soldier painted a mural with engine grease. It showed a human skull with fangs, biting into a Vakeen helmet. Below it, a phrase in block letters. "Get truly nasty." And for the first time in galactic history, the invaders began to wonder. Had they started a war? or awakened a species that had been waiting for one. Orbit over Earth was no longer safe. Where once the Galactic Coalition's warships formed an unbreakable ring of control, now debris drifted in unstable orbits, twisted remains of destroyers and fractured hulls of command ships. Human missiles, disguised as asteroid fragments and cloaked by solar flares, had torn holes in their superiority. And in the darkness between stars, humanity launched its counterstrike. The Cerberus was Earth's first stealth-capable warship, a Frankenstein creation of salvaged alien tech, quantum cloaking modules, and cold fusion drives. It was invisible to every known sensor, undetectable by heat, light, or radiation. It was also crewed by 12 of the most dangerous individuals humanity had ever produced. Captain Reyes stood in the command chamber, eyes fixed on the rotating hologram of the Zalari flagship Oathkeeper, orbiting Titan. Target locked, the AI intoned. Cloak integrity stable. Coalition ship blind. Reyes nodded once. Time to get nasty. In silence, Cerberus slid forward like a shadow, approached the hull, and attached itself like a parasite. Moments later, breach charges cut through alien alloy. Reyes and her team poured inside. No firefights, no speeches. Just silent execution. When they reached the bridge, the Zalari command crew was already dead. Neural disruptors had fried their synapses before they even noticed the breach. Reyes planted Earth's flag into the command console. Ship secured, she radioed. Within hours, the Oathkeeper was turned against its own fleet. Earth's resistance had now become a fence. Not retaliation, eradication. In orbit, human-coordinated assaults were dismantling the once-proud armada species by species. Sabotage, psychological warfare, AI subversion. Humans used every dirty trick they'd ever learned and then invented new ones on the fly. No rules, no mercy. Coalition soldiers began abandoning posts. Some surrendered to humans, begging for asylum. Others deserted their ranks and fled to the stars. They called humanity monsters. Humanity wore it like a badge of honor. The motto, "Get truly nasty," had become more than a slogan. It was a movement. In ravaged cities, civilians repurposed it into rallying cries. Tattoos, flags. It echoed from underground radio waves, resistance forums, even graffiti scorched onto alien dropships. Every surviving human, farmer or hacker, soldier or surgeon, understood the meaning. No forgiveness. No forgetting. No chains. In a coalition war council aboard the Veluan supercarrier Unity's Triumph, panic reigned. The surviving admirals, Veluan, Thrusk, Zalari, and Vakeen, screamed at one another in overlapping tongues. They have no central command, yet they strike with unity, the Thrusk admiral shrieked. They turn our own ships against us, barked the Vakeen. They infect our minds. Our troops are experiencing madness, spat the Zalari tactician. Only High-Speaker Lelth of the Veluan remained silent. She stared at the table with haunted eyes. You wanted them extinct, she said finally. But they weren't rising. They were waiting. The room fell silent, waiting for someone to be stupid enough to give them permission. Back on Earth, Juno Vega stood before a global transmission array, recently hijacked from an alien relay system. The camera focused on her face. Dirty, scarred, alive. This message is for every species that voted to erase us, she said, voice sharp and cold. You thought you were gods descending to smite primitives. But we were never primitives, just patient. She leaned closer. You see this burning sky? We were born under it. Behind her, the clouds roiled with smoke and fire, human warships streaking across the horizon like metallic comets. You wanted monsters. You got them. She paused. And now we're coming. The signal went out to the galaxy. At Earth's newly formed Terran Accord Council, leaders, military, scientific, and civilian, stood united. No more nations. No more borders. One species. One cause. They had already repelled the invaders. Now they would take the war to them. Launch dates were calculated. Reverse-engineered FTL drives were tested. Human colonies that had been hidden across Mars and Europa came online, armed and ready. The war was no longer about survival. It was about revenge. About teaching every species in the stars what humanity was truly capable of when pushed far enough. In the ruins of Sao Paulo, a child picked up a scorched alien helmet and placed it on a spike. Below it, the words were burned into the earth with molten wire. You started this. We'll end it. The stars were no longer safe. 100 Terran warships now prowled the void, engines silent, hulls black as space itself. Built in secret across Earth's surviving factories, Martian bunkers, and lunar shipyards, they were forged not for exploration, but for domination. Humanity had been attacked. Now, they were ready to conquer. The first Terran strike fleet emerged from FTL above the planet Jurath, homeworld of the Vakeen. What the Vakeen called a fortress world, humans called a target-rich environment. Orbital defense rings lit up, plasma batteries, drone clouds, magnetic accelerators, all firing in panicked unison. But the human ships were smaller, smarter, deadlier. The Cerberus, now outfitted with a fusion lance and helmed by Captain Reyes, dove through enemy fire like a knife through silk. Her pilot, a former street racer from Nairobi, danced between burning satellites with inhuman precision. "Bring us down," Reyes ordered, right in the heart of their pride. The human fleet followed, and Jorath burned. They didn't glass cities. That would have been too easy. Instead, Terran Marines dropped into capital centers and dismantled planetary infrastructure, governments, banks, military AI cores, leaving the population intact, watching. The message was clear. We could erase you. Instead, we're rewriting the rules. Back on Earth, the Terran Accord Council broadcast to all known civilizations from a newly constructed orbital station above the equator. The broadcast wasn't wrapped in diplomacy. It was a declaration. General Juno Vega stood tall at the podium, flanked by war banners and glowing blue screens showing the Coalition's once proud symbols, now fractured, crossed out, or inverted. "You sought to erase us," she said. "You failed." She gestured behind her. Live footage played of surrendered Coalition fleets docked at Terran-controlled outposts, their weapons dismantled, their crews disarmed and watched. "We are not here to destroy," Vega continued. "We are here to replace. No more groveling for entry into galactic councils. No more fearing the whims of older empires." Humanity wasn't interested in asking for a seat at the table. They were flipping the table over. The Galactic Tribunal convened on neutral grounds, a once sacred moon orbiting the thrust capital world. Now, it was under human supervision. Representatives of the remaining alien powers arrived one by one, their entourages stripped, their warships docked under Terran guns. The hall, once filled with smug alien nobility, now echoed with silence and shame. When Juno Vega entered, everyone stood, not from protocol, but from fear. She walked slowly to the center dais, wearing her scorched armor, unwashed since the Battle of Titan. One by one, the alien speakers begged. For leniency. For understanding. For peace. Vega listened, then finally spoke. "You all voted for our extinction." She paused. "Now you ask for mercy." The hall held its breath. "We'll give you a choice," she continued. "Join the Accord. Dismantle your weapons. Open your databases. Share your knowledge. Pledge never to raise arms against us again." A hopeful murmur rose among the delegates. "But," she added, voice like thunder, "if even one of you lifts a hand against us again, we will erase your species from memory." No one dared speak. In the years that followed, the galaxy changed. Human engineers rebuilt what the Coalition had broken, only better. Starways were secured by Terran patrols. Trade was taxed under Earth law. Former slave planets were liberated, their captors executed, their chains melted into statues of resistance. Every child in the galaxy now learned a new truth. You don't provoke a human. You survive them. Back on Earth, the sky was healing. Forests slowly returned. Cities rebuilt, not as separate nations, but as pieces of a single civilization. In a classroom carved from the remains of an alien command ship, a teacher asked her students, "Why did the stars fear us?" A small boy raised his hand. "Because we didn't give up," he said. "We got really nasty." The class laughed, but the teacher only nodded, eyes distant. "They unleashed hell," she whispered, "and we showed them what hell really looks like."